Start. Great, thank you. Um, so yeah, why don't we put our names in the chat? Feel free to put your organization and your pronouns in there too. And then, yeah, I think, the theme for me today is the fact that it's just really busy right now. And this morning, at 9 a.m., I realized I had not scheduled interpretation for this meeting. So I was kind of hoping we could all just talk about a ball that we're dropping, something important that we should be doing, but we forgot, or we're just not doing. So that's our icebreaker for today. So for me, I'm Nikki, she, her, CDA. And the ball that I dropped today was scheduling interpretation. So especially grateful for Sam jumping in at the very last minute to help provide Spanish interpretation. And feel free to drop that in the chat. So yeah, thanks for entertaining me there. I also want to just take 1 minute to introduce the new member of our team, Michelle Meyer. She is our new boss, so she'll oversee the Community Food Access Program along with a number of other programs. We're really, really excited to have one more person on staff. So Michelle, do you want to jump in and say hello?
Sure, and I drop balls all the time. Haven't done it yet for CDA, I don't think, but it's also not even been 3 weeks. So give me time, I'm sure I will. But thank you so much, Mickey, and so great to meet everyone virtually. I happen to live up in Routt County in Steamboat Springs, but am down in Broomfield at the office, hopefully a couple times a month. A little bit familiar with this program, but still lots to learn. But just grateful for all of you, for all the great work you're doing out around our state and the community. So thank you so much. And if I can be helpful at all, don't ever hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle. So today, and yes, thanks everyone for putting, putting their little stories in the chat. I'm looking forward to reading those after as we get through the meeting. So also in the chat, I will put the agenda for today. And yeah, so today's one of those meetings where I'm hopeful that it's a lot of me listening to you and taking really careful notes. But we also do have some updates and some reminders here. So first things first, just thank you to everybody for your patience as the Community Food Access Program is in probably the busiest time it's ever had and may ever have. This may be the busiest time in our program because we are, we're working with a lot. Round one applicants are, in some cases, hitting that 3-month mark since they've been paid. So there are receipts and proof of payments due. So that's a really urgent thing. We're also really trying to hustle through round two and getting everyone who was awarded in round two paid and feeling good about what's expected of them for their grant. We're also setting up this tax credit, and we've soft launched the tax credit, as you know, and setting that program up is definitely a big lift. And we're also setting up this consortium. So we just all want to say thank you in advance for your patience as we just deal with this volume of everything kind of stacking up right now. We're really excited about a time when we just have a couple programs, program elements going. And we really couldn't do any of this without you. So just wanted to start out with a little thank you. A few things, just a reminder that the quarterly reporting period for Q4 ended June 30th. And so those quarterly activity reports are due from each of you July 31st. So I've received a few. Thank you so much. For everyone else, please just, finish up putting those finishing touches on your reports and get those over to me. That'll be really great. Gentle reminder to send us invoices. A lot of you guys are really great about this, but yeah, I know it's definitely a lift to get that packet together. So the sooner you can send us your invoices, the better. That will really help also with kind of, as we, in some cases, get towards the end of contracts, we kind of have a better sense of how many dollars are left in your award, and we can shift things around accordingly. Other notes, I just want to reiterate that, the way communication will happen between CDA and all of you, in some cases, it's really straightforward because you as the contractor are doing the majority of the work for your region. In other cases, it's not quite as straightforward. There are a lot of subcontractors and even maybe subcontractors of subcontractors. So in an effort to kind of, one, streamline communications, two, not undermine, we don't want to sort of leave anyone out of the loop or undermine the management of the contractor. We are going to do a better job of sending communications to the main contractor in your group, instead of maybe going directly to a subcontractor we know has been working with a grantee, for example. So yeah, we hope this will help with the way communications are happening. So just to kind of reiterate this, the CDA team, when we're communicating with contractors, will always include the main contractor in all communications. In some cases, it may make sense to copy the most relevant person that we're thinking of, but in all cases, we will include that main contractor. For main contractors, one thing to make sure you do is when you get communications, make sure you pass it along. Know that we're not, in an effort to keep things, consistent and straightforward, we're just going to be mostly communicating with you, and it's up to you to spread that information to everyone else in your team. And then if you're a subcontractor, we love when you reach out directly to us, but maybe loop in that main contractor too. You can just copy them on an email. And, in a lot of cases, the questions you're asking us could be something your whole contractor team wants to hear too. So yeah, consider that with communications. I know that's, we don't want to be too prescriptive or formulaic. We don't ever want you to feel like you can't reach out to us, but we think this may help with consistency. So any questions about that communications piece? Cool. All right. And we are very available. I hope everybody feels like you can call me, email me, even text me if that's the easiest. So, and another note on communications, we have been doing quite a bit with all of you because there are some urgent things coming up. In some cases, some of these grantees are hitting their deadline, and it's a pretty urgent request for your help getting them to provide us a status update or submit those proof of payment documentations. So yeah, without that, we're kind of forced to audit the grantee, and if they have not spent the funds accordingly, we have to claw back the funds. So we don't want to do that. We have all of you helping us. So yeah, that's something we're going to continue to do. We're going to continue to loop you in sooner rather than later, so that we can, avoid that situation of clawing back granted funds. So those were a couple updates. Other things, we are, as I mentioned, we're working through all of these grants. We're really hopeful that we can finally have a press release that publicly announces all of the names of the grantees. And we are talking with the governor's office about the possibility of doing a press event. So I want to put this on your horizon. I've been told that the governor's office can be notoriously flaky, which is really frustrating, especially when it comes to, trying to plan something with a large crowd and, getting people excited about meeting Governor Polis. But we are aiming for a press release to go out third or fourth week of August, and hopefully around that time have a little bit of a celebration, a press event, and maybe our governor can attend this event. We're hoping it's at the site of one of our grantees. We're not quite sure who or where yet, but I'll definitely let you know as these plans are firming up. And after that, that will be a really exciting time for all of you to announce all of the results of your hard work with this outreach and technical assistance as related to the grant. We're also going to kind of springboard, we'll use that press event to talk about the tax credit in kind of a louder way. So that kind of leads us to our next item on the agenda, which is, we're really actively seeking feedback on how this tax credit process is landing with all of the potential applicants you all have been working with over the past month. So what I'd love to do is hear more about how that process has gone. If you've reached out and spoken with potential applicants, if you've gotten into the application, if there have been big roadblocks before you even get there. We want to know, we're bringing you in to help us develop this program, and we are taking this feedback very, very seriously, and it will directly shape, our next decisions about how to set up this program. So that's what I'd like to spend the majority of our time talking about. So before we kick it off, I want to say a big thank you to Monique, who took so backing up, we have the questions in a PDF for the application questions for the tax credit. And then when they were converted to a Word document, for whatever reason, when they were uploaded onto the drive, the formatting just got completely garbled and jumbled. So Monique took matters into her own hands and not only fixed the formatting, but made like a beautiful set of instructions to go in front of each. So all of that should be in your contractor resources folder under worksheets. Thank you so much, Monique, for just taking that on. Is there anything you want to add about those worksheets you created?
Yeah. Hi, good morning, everybody. Greetings. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to show y'all what's here so that you can utilize the tool as effectively as possible. And we wanted to have our team kind of play around with it a little bit before investing in getting them all translated into Spanish, because obviously they're pretty lengthy documents. So if a couple folks want to take a look and then, let me know if you think they're good to go, then we'll start the translation process. The first, if you want to drive, Mickey, that's awesome. Worksheets, tax credit, cool. Yeah, and then there's shortcut here. All right, if we can start with that first one, CDA. Yeah, perfect. Great. Okay, so you can make a copy right now. No one outside of the RMSER team has edit access to these documents, but you're welcome to make a copy of them on your own and customize them all. Essentially, what we're hoping happens is that folks will work through this application worksheet, and then they will gather their supporting documentation utilizing the instructions that we've provided. And then they'll hit us up for a walkthrough of their application before pressing send. And in that walkthrough, we can support them in, all kinds of things, like if it's getting the attachments prepared, if it's naming the files, if it's printing even. So the hope is that we're doing a little bit of hand-holding after they've drafted some answers and gathered their supporting documentation. Obviously, we're available throughout that process, but we really want to say like, hey, you have someone to check this over before you click send if you want it. So that kind of describes the process here. You're welcome to update this to whatever makes the most sense for your team. And if you want to scroll a little bit for me, Mickey. In the document that we're in now, it's like an 80-page document because it has every single application type in this one document. So you're seeing here, these are the first couple of questions, no matter what type of applicant you are. And then it's highlighted yellow for small food retailer business, grocery store, brick and mortar, we'll call it, green for farmers market, and then teal for like the rancher. It identifies specifically which question and page you skip to. If for whatever reason your, contact decides to use this massive document, but now you can pop back out, Mickey, and yeah. Here are the individual docs for the business types. So the trick here is that the business has to know what type it is, or you have to know what type they are to make sure you give them the right worksheet, because it would really suck if you gave them the worksheet for the wrong business type, because then they'd just be doing extra work. So you can see, go ahead and scroll here, et cetera, et cetera. It really just mirrors the application. Again, it's highlighted here, the type of business that this form is for, blah, blah, blah. And it goes all the way through all of the questions that were in that funky PDF and are on the form in their exact order. You'll notice it says, delete this line and type your answer here. That's just so folks get organized. And then when they go to copy paste, boom, boom, it's pretty straightforward. And if you could scroll all the way to the end, we have like a one pager on supporting documentation. And so we describe what every applicant is going to need. And then for the applicant type, if you want to scroll a little more to bring the rest of the page up, it's specifically what they need for that business type. So for the farmer's market, it's a little lighter than for the farmer, or et cetera. But each one of those pages has been customized depending on which worksheet you're in, unless you're in the big mega 81-page document and it describes all of it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is so great.
Totally. Any questions on that, or anything that doesn't seem quite clear?
Okay. I think, just looking at this is a little bit more, it may require a little bit more than just that checkbox, because it is a bank statement plus a receipt, or a check. But that would be the only thing I'm seeing as like, this seems pretty comprehensive. That might be one area to delve in a little bit more, but.
Yeah, that's very helpful feedback. I can go in there and update all of that on those 3 sheets. And if someone's chomping at the bit to just use this today, then, you've heard Mickey, we want to probably expand that a little bit for the folks using the worksheet.
And, we also have like more on how to provide proof of purchase on our website. So if it doesn't make sense to put it all in here, then, that's fine. But if folks are really liking having everything in one spot in their worksheet, that's that's a great idea there.
Okay, I see someone named Grow Your Own Meal with the hand
Oh.
raised.
Sorry about that. I need to add my name.
All
Um,
good.
I just had a quick question because I clicked on the link that I believe Erica posted for the docs to go to our resource folder, but I don't see this new. I think it still has the old application with some issues. So am I in the wrong folder? Want to make
Here,
sure I do.
we'll go through that together. Sorry, you guys are
Okay.
seeing like all of my drive here, but this is the folder that everybody should have access to.
Okay.
If you don't have this folder, it's called Contractor Resources folder. Please let me know.
Okay.
So here
Thank you.
in worksheets, you'll see the worksheets, and the grant one, the Jay's team in the San Luis Valley did some work similar to this. And so that's in the grant folder, but here in the tax credit folder, this is the one that's the formatting's all off. So if everyone's okay with it, I can just delete these. And then here in this folder is where all of Monique's really
Okay.
helpful
Great.
work is.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Marion. Any other questions for Monique? Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you again for that. That's been something that's been requested in multiple ways over time. Probably yet another ball I've dropped. So I'm really grateful that we have that tool now. And, I just want to use this as an opportunity to say, if you're seeing something that, someone could spend time on to make all of your lives easier as outreach and TA, providers, feel free to talk through that with me. And I think in every single case, we have a little bit of time and money left over in your contracts to pay for that kind of work, right? So if you're thinking of something like this that you want to take on, as you know, Michelle, Adonai, and myself, have our plates pretty full right now. So something like this is an amazing way to make everybody's lives easier. And yeah, those are billable hours. So thank you, Monique, for taking that on. And yeah, we'll use that as our kicking off point for talk about how things have been going with tax credit guinea pigs, I guess we can call them. Does anybody want to start us off with their stories of how things have gone in the past month, talking with any particular applicants about taking advantage of the tax credit?
I've had a pretty consistent feedback when I've talked to farmers in that they wish they could do it, but they lack the cash to purchase the equipment upfront. So that seems to be across the board. They love the idea though.
Just show of hands, who else has encountered that? I know it's something we've talked about in these meetings. Okay, yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, so not to jump way ahead, but as you all have brought up, I mean, these were ideas that came from you. Yeah, we've been kind of thinking about how can we pair this tax credit with a low interest loan program, a lender. These conversations are growing. We had a conversation with the Regional Food Business Center yesterday. Yeah, we're scheming about how to kind of combine opportunities so that yeah, farmers aren't just out the money. They can get a loan before they get a tax credit, pay off the loan. So yeah, I think it's really helpful to hear that that's just a theme coming up over and over. Of course, you know, it will be quite involved, and you can see the kind of TA that's required to take advantage of the tax credit. If you all are also helping them take advantage of a loan, you know, we'll really need your support in a lot more ways, right? So, yeah, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is something that we're exploring and kind of see this as more of like a um, long-term support that we can provide in our technical assistance. So we're reaching out to First Southwest Bank, which is a CDFI and has offered low interest loans like this for programs like this to businesses like this in the past. And they're a great resource in our region. We're also thinking about connecting with Slow Money because they've done similar low interest or no interest loans for farmers and ranchers in the past for those like really micro equipment purchases. That might just be like a couple $1,000s. And then I dropped a link in the chat, but if anyone's in the Front Range, I know that SEDS is interested in talking to any technical assistance providers in that area.
Thanks, Lauren.
I had a quick question on the Front Range. I'm sorry, could you repeat the link to whom you put in the chat? Is that sedsfinance.org?
Yes.
Okay,
And if you browse their website and it feels like a good fit or like your region matches up, I'm happy to introduce you to my point of contact there.
perfect. Could you put your contact information in the chat too?
Yeah, sure thing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. And thanks, Eileen.
Mickey, this is more of a question. I was on a meeting with the Office of Economic Development and International Trade and with a bunch of lenders this week. And they were talking about our OEDIT is also very much offering this tax credit. So my question is, how is CDA working with other government offices to kind of manage all of this? Because I'm just curious.
Yeah. So OEDIT hosts OEDIT, as Eileen mentioned, is the Office of Economic Development and International Trade. It's another, state agency like the Department of Agriculture. And OEDIT probably has the most tax credit programs of any state agency. They are that's their thing, tax credits. So our tax credit, the Community Food Access Tax Credit, is one of the first tax credits CDA has ever had. So that's the first place we went, talk to OEDIT about, how do your tax credits go? How do you work with the Department of Revenue? How should we set this up? They had some great tips, but what we found is that, a tax credit is really, obviously it's really different depending on what the tax credit's for. Like OEDIT has tax credits for preservation of historic buildings and businesses becoming cooperatives and tons of different tax credits. So there's differences there, but also the way it's set up, right? How much rulemaking authority the agency has. So we didn't really have a lot of rulemaking authority. In what I mean by that is it's kind of first come, first serve. We don't really have the ability to say, okay, well, this one's best. It's going to get awarded first, right? We also, the legislation didn't give us any authority to say this is a maximum amount one business can get in a tax credit. So you can see there's just like a ton of differences between tax credits. Also, whether or not they're refundable or reimbursable or transferable. There's, yeah, the way the legislation was written about that specific tax credit definitely, yeah, differs quite a bit. So, yeah, we are definitely working with our other state agencies to kind of help learn best practices and also just get the word out about tax credits that could be, some of our key businesses could also be eligible for. But yeah, I don't know how many tax credits the state of Colorado has, but I think it's in the hundreds, and a lot of them are through OEdit. So I don't know if that helped. Eileen.
Yes, thank you. Maybe one suggestion would be that we set aside, 30 minutes in one of these calls just to bring in other state programs that are doing tax credits, because what I found when I was doing that comparison was that there's some folks that I'm working with that would benefit more would qualify more for an OEdit opportunity. And the other thing that I was interested in is in exploring a little bit more is that they are combining it with loans.
Yeah.
However they're doing that, I think we could learn a lot from, right? So that was just some thoughts.
Yeah, they're pretty sophisticated with their tax credits over there at OEdit, and they've got a lot of tools at their disposal. And there is a loan program through CDA. It's one of the other programs that Michelle is overseeing. Unfortunately, all of the funds from the loan are out in the world, and we're waiting for those funds those loans to be repaid. So there's like $0 to loan out right now through CDA, but that would be a perfect matching, right? I think that loan program, the interest rate was so low that it became extremely competitive. So yeah, I really appreciate that you are kind of exploring OEdit and other tax credits. And I really like that idea of us kind of learning more about what else is out there, especially if there's something that one of these businesses we're working with is just a shoe-in for. Marion, you want to go ahead?
Yes, I had a question about the deadline of August 30th. The document that you referred to us this morning that Michelle worked on, I think it was Michelle or Monica. I'm sorry if I've already forgotten. Have this remembering name problem. That is for the evaluation, right? If you qualify for the tax credit, which brings me to what's the turnaround for getting a response for receiving notice that you do qualify based on what you're submitting?
So what Marion is talking about is what legislation refers to as the letter of eligibility. So let's talk about this. So here's our tax credit program. And yeah, so the legislation laid out this letter of eligibility. So if you didn't know if you're eligible, or if you haven't bought something yet, but while you're planning to buy something and you want to know if it would be eligible for the tax credit, you can submit this form which we are calling a letter of eligibility request form. So let me go actually over to our frequently asked questions page. So the letter of eligibility request form is here. What I'll say about this is it is as much work to fill out this letter of eligibility request form as it is to fill out the tax credit application. So if you and your business that you're working with have read the website and you know that you can provide all of the supporting documentation that this business is eligible, and what they're planning to buy is literally listed here, and I would discourage folks from filling out the letter of eligibility request form because it's just extra work and it's extra time. So that said, I do want to kind of put that out there that it sounds like a nice tool, a nice, quick, easy, like, oh, let me just get a little certainty. And I do think, like, if you're working with someone who hasn't bought their piece of equipment yet, it could be great. The thing is, they have to buy the exact piece of equipment for that letter of eligibility to apply, right? If they veer off course in any way, technically their letter of eligibility is no longer valid, right? So if you're working with someone who is eligible and wants to buy something that is listed here, I would just go ahead and encourage them to fill out that application. The situations where it would make sense to send someone to the letter of eligibility request form is if they they bought something, or they're planning to buy something that's not listed here, that we think maybe could work, but you just want a little more clarification on. Again, though, you guys have a direct line to me and Adonai, and you can just email us, and a conversation might be a little bit more expedited at this stage of the game instead of going through this like very formal letter of eligibility request form channel. The other sort of drawback of this eligibility request form is even if you get it, it doesn't promise that you'll get that tax credit, right? Because the tax credit money could be gone by the time you actually submit the application. So for all of us here right now, and for where we're at in this stage of the game, I would encourage you to just, if you're having questions about whether someone is eligible or something is eligible, I would encourage you to just initiate a conversation with our program team so we can talk through it instead of sending them to this letter of eligibility request form. But to answer your question, Marion, we will be processing those on a first come, first serve basis. And yeah, we may reach out to the applicant if they have any incomplete part of that request form, and then they'll have a 10-day deadline to get that back to us. But yeah, we don't have a firm deadline of like how long it will take us to process that. I would say if you're wondering about this, let's start an email and just ask me. I think that will be a much quicker way, especially as we're in these really beginning stages of this tax credit program. Does that help?
Yeah, that makes total sense. A follow-up question would be, this August deadline is for anything you purchased before August or you're planning on purchasing throughout the year? Because of course the tax credit doesn't happen until next year. And will you have another chance to apply December 31st, or, what's the next deadline?
Yeah. So good reminder.
Because farmers are not going to be able to fill these out now because it's the height of the season.
Right. So I mentioned this last month, but the tax credit will just be open until all of the money is gone, right? So August 31st is, yes, we can think of it as a deadline, but it's really just a period in time where CDA is going to take all of the applications that have come in and start reviewing them. But someone will be able to submit an application to the next Google form on September 1st. So we'll post this on our website. We didn't want to post anything before it was finalized by a few more checks, but tentatively, we plan to review applications again at the end of October, and then for the last time at the end of December.
Okay,
So if someone's making a purchase this fall, they should still be able to submit an application. The only situation where they wouldn't be able to submit an application, Marion, is if all 10 million goes away because we awarded it. And I can't make promises, but I think that's highly unlikely.
well, given it's only 30 days away for the
So,
first round.
Yeah, it's all kind of these probabilities. It could
Okay.
happen. Someone could have bought something that was $10 million. And if they get their application in, we don't have the authority to say like, we're just going to award part of this.
So
yeah.
one person could get all of the money. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
One or
they could.
5 people? I mean,
Totally.
the 10 million is, okay. That's another important point to make.
Yeah. But like, if we're thinking in probabilities, what was the first thing Eileen said? People aren't even taking advantage of this because they can't access the capital to buy the thing in the first place. So
Yeah.
it's unlikely that a small farm or a small food retailer is going to make a $10 million purchase.
That, of course, is not good because that means this program is getting not very much support right from the beginning. That
Right.
that stacked, the thing is stacked against you once again.
Mm-hmm. Maybe when you talk to Polis at the
Oh, yeah.
press event, you can say, hey, Polis, could you do something about our tax law here in this state?
Well, we can get 200,000 signatures like we did for the real estate.
If anyone can, it's you, Marion.
Oh, yeah, right. I don't want that job. Thank you. But anyway, I appreciate your response.
Thank you, guys. So that was great updates from Denver Metro. Anybody else in the Denver Metro group spending time with any applicants, potential applicants, and getting some good feedback? I know we've talked a little bit. Some of us have met, and we do have, our program team has information from all of these grant applications. And so if you want to set up a time to talk with our team about who we think could be good applicants for the tax credit, because we either read in their application that they already bought something, or they didn't get the grant, but they seem pretty motivated to do the project anyway. Yeah, let's schedule a time to meet, because those could be good places to start if you haven't been able to connect with any businesses yet. Okay, feel free to jump in, anyone from Denver Metro, if you have other thoughts, but we'll move to another region. Anyone else want to report back?
I have a question, Mickey.
Yeah.
So, to Eileen's point, this has just been brought to my attention as well as other tax credits. Because I was asked which one's better. And I just have so many questions. Like, should we reach out to OEdit for a training on the very similar? Because there's one that is for retailers for new equipment in low-income neighborhoods. And so it's like the exact same. And now we're tasked with which one's better. So I just wonder if we should be reaching out to OEdit on some of these to learn about them, and or do their tax credits come with technical assistance as well, and we're all bombarding these retailers,
Yeah.
because that is going to be very disheartening.
Erica, will you send me that? I think you sent me a link, but was it just for?
No, it's for businesses, family-owned businesses in low-income neighborhoods.
Okay. So not just
Not just retailers, but they qualify.
Okay. Yeah, we gotta know about these things, right? Yeah, and we can compare and contrast, but yeah, if you could drop that, a link to that tax credit in the chat, that would be super helpful. Angeli.
I'm wondering if anyone has thought about working with Kiva, and when I was in New Orleans, some of the small businesses that I worked with, our nonprofit was not like the fiscal sponsor, but sort of part of their net. They were part of our network. And we had a local hub. I see that there is a hub for Kiva in Colorado. It's not something I've looked into, but just wondering if that is something that people have thought about as a potential way to access a loan in a way that works for small businesses.
I think it would be a great idea to just start compiling all of these lenders in one place, and we can all start exploring them together and sharing our experiences working working to help these businesses get loans. But yeah, I mean, so far we've had 2 to 3 brought up in just this call. Might make sense to just compile these and start exploring what makes the most sense for each business. Has anyone looked into Kiva? Awesome ideas. Thank you. So yeah, our conversation is trending towards helping these businesses get loans, helping these businesses access that capital so that they can then apply for the tax credit. I'm curious if there's anything about our tax credit application process that's been brought up as confusing, not straightforward. Is anything kind of, as you've been working with people, have we even gotten to that step where we've opened up the application? No. Okay.
No, because we had a halt to do anything until certain things were straightened out. So we haven't actually started the conversations, other than peripherally, casually,
Okay.
at least in our group.
Okay. Well, feel free to start those conversations. We want to get the feedback from those conversations before we do this big press event. So
I think that's super important. I appreciate you allowing us to talk about it in a more detailed way.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other, I mean, feel free to share stories from working with specific businesses. I think we can all learn from those. Anyone who's just been navigating this.
This is Perdita. I can share that I think I brought up this gentleman previously in a previous meeting who had not gotten the grant but had gotten feedback that it just was not as his grant would not have been as impactful. So he seemed like he was someone who was eligible. They were hoping to purchase the pickup through the grant, and so they have gone ahead and done that. So I've had the conversation with him and talked with him a couple of times now about the program, but he seems very comfortable. I mean, I'm going to be giving him this new information that we got from Monique in terms of the formatting, but he seems pretty much like he's he's kind of, I got this, like, he wants to try. He's like, if I have any questions, I'll come back to you, kind of thing. So that's, and then I have one other person that I'm working with. I have a meeting today. And we like just started the process. So that's what I got.
Well, that's hopeful, Perdita. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we're kind of looking for is, someone who applied, maybe wasn't able to get the grant for whatever reason, but is eligible, went ahead and bought that piece of equipment. In this case, it was a pickup, and feels good about submitting a tax credit application for it so that they can get a reimbursement for the cost of that pickup. Yeah, Perdita, I know it's sometimes hard to help someone who's like, yeah, got this. But yeah, maybe things to think through are, one, did they pay for that pickup outright, or are they on like kind of a payment plan? If so, that could cause hang-ups, right? Because it has to be a purchased item. Second, I think if he needs any support demonstrating how that vehicle is being used for the goals of the grant, that's where you could come in and just help with that narrative. Because unfortunately, just saying I'm a farm and I bought a pickup truck won't cut it for like getting the tax credit. But yeah, if they do, I mean, the nice thing about having a few rounds of this is, if he applied and didn't quite have a full enough narrative and was denied that first round, he could apply again the second round and maybe be a little more inclined to accept your help. So
I have a question, Mickey.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Perdita, did you want to add something else?
Oh, I just wanted to say that was really helpful. I really appreciate it. And I will, I'm going to reach out anyway, because now we have these new forms. So I will mention those things. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Perdita. One thing I'll just reiterate about the forms. We really, really, really encourage people. I mean, the forms are just like a worksheet where you can brainstorm ideas, spitball things, pass it back and forth between your TA provider, and the business. In terms of the actual submission, we do want it to be in the Google form, please. So do please encourage people to actually put it into the form. That will just save hours and hours and hours of administrative work. So yeah, thanks for that. Hunter, go ahead.
So you mentioned it has to be equipment that's been purchased, and I was meeting with a potential applicant who was wondering about purchasing a tractor. And so I kind of pitched the idea of getting a loan to potentially purchase that. But then she mentioned that a lot of the tractor manufacturing companies essentially do offer pretty good financing options. And so is that not eligible? You said it had to be purchased. So if they haven't paid off everything, does that not count as something that's been purchased?
When they pay it off, they can submit. So, maybe if it's next year, they can say, look, submitted the final payment, the title is in my name. I don't know if you have titles for tractors, right?
Presumably, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's mine. I own it now and I bought it. And here's the proof. Then she can apply and get the tax credit for it. And so, yeah, I mean, that could feel really nice to be paying off a $50,000 piece of equipment over the course of years and then see that back the next time you file your taxes. So yeah, that would be eligible.
Okay, but they couldn't apply until like the multiple years have passed and they kind of finished paying off everything.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
But this tax credit is for 6 years. So it's nice to be talking about this now.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I just had a quick question about eligibility again. One of my applicants that sent the microgains fail because they only have one product. Is that still a issue? If you apply,
And you only have one product.
No, it won't be an
Okay.
issue.
All right, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
That opens up a whole new avenue of potential folks.
Yeah. Yeah, if they can build that case, you know, they may fall a little lower in the, like, I mean, I'll go back to this again, not to overly confuse this, but, whoopsie. Okay. Sorry. I'm so terrible at sharing my screen sometimes, but here we go. The short answer, Marion, is no, it doesn't matter. The long answer is this is the way they'll be awarded. So August 30th, we'll take all of the applications that come in, which at this time we have 0. So, you know, we hope to get a few in by August 30th, but let's say we get 5 applications in by August 30th. We will take all 5 and we'll make sure that they actually are eligible, and we'll make sure what they bought is eligible. If yes, and yes, we will then put them in this order. So, you know, no one in the world has received an equipment tax credit yet. So, yeah, again, no one's received one this year. So they will be sorted in order of smallest dollar request to largest. And within that, rural first, and then urban. And within that, greatest impact to least. So, you know, maybe they are ranked 1 lower than someone that carries, you know, a farm that carries 20 products, but they're still going to get the tax credit just because they got it after the, yeah, maybe they're 5th in line, but they're still going to get the tax credit. So again, the short answer is no, that won't matter. Okay. Thanks for these specific examples, you guys. I think it really helps to get the wheels turning. Any other comments from anyone who's worked with businesses on the tax credit?
Yeah, I'll jump in. We down in the southwest corner have not had any success getting to the point of any businesses interested in sitting down to fill out an application. The closest we got was with one applicant who is planning to purchase a bunch of eligible equipment. They're an eligible business. They applied for the grant, didn't get it, so they checked all of these initial boxes. And then we found out that the way the financing they're using to purchase all of this eligible equipment is from a grant. They received one of the Resilient Food Infrastructure RFSI grants. So that was like a good thing for us to like discover before we got any further. Like I'm glad that came up during our initial call together before we started any type of application, and it was just a good reminder for me to like add that into our kind of like checklist and make sure that they're not using any grant funding, and because that would be bad double dipping.
Thanks for bringing that up, Lauren, because you reminded me of the email that I sent out last week. May have come off a little bit funny, but we have this duplication of benefits training, which our compliance team invited us to open up, you know, to all of you if you want to come. So I can share a little bit more about that. It's definitely not mandatory. It's relevant in the fact that you guys are out there in this exact situation that Lauren described, where, you know, oh, okay, no, you can't apply for a tax credit for equipment that you bought with a grant because yeah, that's a duplication of benefits. So unfortunately the training is a really long time and it's in person. And yes, I will be there because that's what I have to do. But for all of you, they are offering a virtual one that's going to be like, I think 4 hours. If you are a CPA, you can get credits. I know I'm not making this sound super appealing, but if you are interested, if you're in a position where you're interested in learning more about how can I identify duplication of benefits, how can I, mitigate the risk of that happening. And also if you're just interested in the kinds of stuff we here at CDA are dealing with on the back end with on the compliance side of things with these federal funds, you are more than welcome to sign up. I noticed that some folks did sign up for the in-person one. Maybe just take a look at that sheet and make sure you're signed up for the right one if you don't intend to come in person. Marion, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I missed that you could also attend a webinar, because one whole day is a long time to dedicate to this.
You're telling me.
Since we probably don't have that many applicants who have that problem.
Right. So that's kind of what you think. It's like, oh, well, how likely is it that they'll have been awarded a grant or they already got a tax credit for the same thing? Yeah. I mean, I do hope to learn a lot in this benefits training. I think the biggest takeaway is just learning what else is out there. And, these are things that you guys have brought up in this very meeting. So,
No, I think it would be worthwhile, but maybe the 4-hour would be more efficient. So are we able to sign up for that?
Yeah. So if you look on the sheet, there's like over to the left is the full day sign up, and over to the right, it's just kind of.
Okay, I didn't notice that because our team already signed up.
Okay. Well, yeah, if you want to switch it, I think it's totally fine.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing up that situation, Lauren, and reminding me that was something I wanted to speak with you all about. So, and again, just reiterate, if they got a grant for it, whether it was our grant or another grant, it's technically not eligible for a tax credit as well. Did you have any other comments or takeaways or thoughts, Lauren?
No, we just haven't had anyone bite on this opportunity yet.
Okay. Yeah, we've been spreading the word too. It kind of is the sort of thing that comes up deep in conversation, right? Because, they may not put it together, but as you're talking and you realize, oh, you already bought that, even if it's a $1,000, display case, that could be something that's eligible. And if they already bought it, then there's no harm in trying to get part of that money reimbursed, right? But yeah, it's definitely, I can empathize that it's not necessarily something that people feel like, oh yeah, this is something I'm gonna do. Any other feedback for us? I mean, we're in the point now where, we haven't developed these marketing materials yet. We haven't developed the guide yet. We're working on it, but what can we know right now so that we message this properly? Where can we clear up confusion? Well, if you don't have any thoughts now, that's okay. We are definitely accepting all of your thoughts on this as you go. my biggest takeaways that I've written down are, you know, and right, this is going to be something to navigate. To what extent the CDA want to actively on our website talk about, here are financing opportunities. To what extent does that confuse things? To what extent does that get us going down a road that we don't have a lot of control over? I think it might be one thing if it was all within CDA, like our loan program was open. But yeah, that's a big takeaway that I've written down. Other things, maybe a little more clarity around how to utilize the letter of eligibility request form. Yeah, and then some to-dos, exploring all the other tax credits out there, especially ones that could be relevant for the same piece of equipment. Monique.
Yeah, on the letter of eligibility piece, like if you're telling us in your internal at CDA running the program that it's a wasted step or it's a waste of time or it's extra work or then maybe we just need a flow chart that helps people understand if they're eligible or not, rather than pushing them through this process that it just feels like if we're hearing from you that maybe we should not encourage them to do that process, then maybe there's a better resource that helps folks know that they're eligible right away. So that's something on my mind. And in terms of the eligibility and like the equipment has to be purchased in full and it has to be an important piece of equipment and you have to demonstrate that this equipment is supporting you in bringing Colorado foods to low-income, low-access areas. Then in marketing materials that come out about the program, those need to be the top 3 bullets because you're not getting anywhere if you don't have those things really clearly defined. And so the one that's probably going to be most tricky, where people are going to feel like there's gray matter, is how do you demonstrate low income, low access accessibility increases? So then we just provide some examples of that.
Yeah.
Here are some examples based on the equipment type of how you might prove that that's being done. Because I think when folks are seeing this, when they engage with it, they're like, I don't know where my food goes.
Yeah.
That's a big one for folks. Like they produce it, they sell it, especially on the small farmer side. So I think we can do a better job of helping them understand it's not that hard to prove that actually you're going to low income, low access areas, especially in some of our communities where we are identified as low income, low access, just at the baseline. So that piece, I think, in terms of the marketing conversation can probably be really clear. Maybe we can come up with language ourselves to play with, but that's on my mind. And then in terms of getting the eligible entities excited, so some of us, the relationships aren't necessarily with the folks that are going to benefit from the tax credit. The relationships are with the folks that are benefiting from the food.
Yeah.
And so when we're thinking about who holds the networks, where we get to these people, so I'm thinking I'm going to put up a little 1-2 for our extension office, and I'm going to ask our extension office to push this out through their networks and say, hey, reach out to RMSCR if you want TA. So really thinking about where does it make sense? Who's the trusted person because every one of these businesses is buying equipment. Like, that people are making these expenses. We just have to get in front of them. It has to look easy. It has to be clear. And we just have to get in front of them. And then these applications are going to start rolling in. So in terms of the marketing approach, those are the things that I would comment on, like how to highlight a bigger rollout.
Yeah. Thank you for that feedback. That's so helpful. And yeah, sometimes it is tough to roll out a marketing, like, up in Boulder, they had a harder time proving that they're reaching a low income, low access population. Marion helped a lot of farmers to draw that connection. And that probably maybe was the hardest part of some of those applications, but it might be different in other areas. But yeah, I think, you know, in working on just a quick takeaway flyer, we need to highlight who is this for? What, you know, what is it for? And then what do we mean when we say expand access to healthy food? I put Lauren made this beautiful eligibility checklist, put that in the chat. It's sort of like a flow chart. Maybe take a look at that, see if that helps internally. Yeah, this is just shared internally. But yeah, how can we kind of maybe build this out so that it's more of a publicly utilized, like it's something on our website you can click on and be like, oh, yep, that's me. I'm gonna do that. So yeah, let us know what you think of that flow chart that Lauren made.
Is that the thing you just added in the chat?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And that's in our contractor resources folder. It's one of the loose pieces of paper, not in a folder. So it's called eligibility checklist. Okay, well, you know, as we develop these guides, so the guides are, you know, similar to that grant guideline packet. We'll make that guide and we'll translate it. And we'll want feedback from you about how that looks and how that's reading and how useful that is. And then, yeah, Monique, what we did was we made a flyer that was used for outreach, but a lot of all of you guys and your specific regions kind of customized our flyer so that folks were directed not necessarily only to CDA, but also to TA providers, and also, you know, tweaked language so that it was more relevant to the region. So, yeah, we've got you know, that on our to-do list too, to draft a flyer that you all can give us feedback on and help make your own. Really great feedback. Thank you so much.
Mickey, I had one other comment.
Yeah.
Regarding something that you said about, you know, the $1,000 purchase. I think one other piece of this is the idea that people can apply for things that are maybe not as expensive, right? Because I feel like there's been this, in my head, it's been like, oh yeah, you know, it has to be, to make it worthwhile, you know, for them to go through this whole process, it really has to be a lot of this and that. But, you know, for the small farmers, maybe it is really relevant to start to have them think about, you know, if they've made $1,000 purchases, then that's $5,000 they can get back from on their taxes. So anyway, I appreciated that.
Yeah. And, you know, I think maybe encourage, I mean, do take a look at what we've listed out as costly equipment. And, you know, if we're getting closer to like $500, maybe, yeah, make sure it still fits squarely in one of those buckets of costly equipment that's outlined on the website. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing all of the costs of these items through the grant. And yeah, you can get a refrigerated display case for less than $2,000. That's exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly what this is for. If a farm stand wants to have a little bit more robust infrastructure, yeah, that's something they could get a tax credit for. So if they're doing it anyway, let's find them and help them get reimbursed for that.
Mickey, I just want to point out on the eligibility list you just put in the checklist. Question number 6, do you carry at least 3 categories of federally defined staple foods? So your answer sort of is counter to what it says here. If he only has one product.
So this is for small food retailers, Marion. Remember, farms don't
okay,
have to.
Not the farm. It's not the farm. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
The next tab over is the farmer tab. And that's where as you're talking to farmers, they could fall in one or two or both of the farmer categories,
Oh, I see. I
direct to
missed that.
consumer or
I
a
missed
farmer who
that
sells
second
to
thing.
retailers.
Thank you, thank you. My own failure to see.
Don't worry about it. Thank you for looking. Okay. So, again, please just include us, myself and Ed and I, in your conversations. We want to be learning a lot from your early conversations. Yeah, they're really going to help us think through how we set this up and how we talk about it. So don't hesitate to reach out with questions as you're working with folks in the coming weeks and months and years, hopefully, which leads me to the next bullet point on our agenda. So I've had conversations with a lot of you, and this is directed right at the main contractors in this group, but as I mentioned last month, we are moving ahead with exploring our contract extension possibilities. So what we need from you is to please officially express if you are interested in continuing to do this work as an outreach and TA provider for the next 2 years. So through 2026, the end of 2026. If you're not interested, we do want to know that too. And what would be really helpful, and I can create a little template for you guys, is just clearly indicating what you would want to change about your contract if you're shifting funds around between line items, if you're adding a subcontractor, taking a subcontractor away. And also, because we don't quite have the official final budget for what we have for these award amounts. Right now, we're looking at award amounts that will be more or less similar to what they are now. Could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less, but we think it's going to be around 80,000 per year per region. But because we don't have exact numbers right now, it's really helpful to indicate sort of a range for what each contractor and subcontractor and line item would be awarded, or kind of like a percentage of the total contract. So if that works for you, that works for us. Also helpful is just clearly stating, if the contract amount is less than whatever amount, we really can't be involved. That's not enough funding for us to pay all of our subcontractors and to do the work well. Also, if the contract amount is more than this amount, we would want to restructure. We would want to think about yet another subcontractor or rearranging things in this way. So I know I'm asking you to be really flexible here, but we are on this ride together. And so kind of getting a sense of where you're at will really help us move quickly through those contract extension pieces once we get the green light to actually do that. So please set up a time to talk with me about this if you haven't already, and you're concerned about any element of this. But, the takeaway is we want to keep you guys. As we discussed today, there's going to be a lot of need for all of you with this tax credit, even more than with the grant. So we want to make this feasible and viable for all of you to keep helping us make this program great. So any comments on that or comments at all?
Did you say that you would send out a template for us to fill? Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you something just so we can get the right information from everybody. Cool. All right. Well, thank you all. Thanks for riding this roller coaster together, and super appreciate you all. I'll keep you posted on all of the things that are up in the air as they come together. And hopefully we can all meet up at a really fun party at a small food retailer or small family farms location with a special guest, Governor Polis. But yeah, more on that to come. All right. If there's no other questions or comments, have a great day.
Thanks, Mickey. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mickey.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.